Welcome to the ChargePoint podcast, brought to you by FlexiCharge, your gateway to the future of EV charging. In each episode, we dive deep into the world of EV infrastructure, offering insights and perspectives from industry leaders, innovators, and the people at the forefront of deploying charging solutions and networks. Join us to explore the exciting developments that are accelerating our world towards sustainable mobility.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the ChargePoint podcast. I'm your host, Christoph. As I'm recording this in early January, let me first wish you and your loved ones a very happy new year. This is one of our market deep dives episodes, part of our ongoing series where we explore European EV charging markets. So far, we've covered Denmark, Norway, Sweden, the UK, Belgium. And today, we're heading south to Spain. Joining me is Didac from Ingeteam, a major Spanish player in the EV charging space, and this episode is here to bring some much-needed sunshine to the gloomy January skies. The Spanish EV market has had its share of delays and red tape, but things are picking up. In fact, as we kick off the year, there's plenty to be optimistic about. In this episode, we'll discuss how Spain's EV charging infrastructure has evolved over the past 2 years, why bureaucracy and grid connection issues are still slowing things down, what's finally changing and how heavy vehicle electrification is gaining traction, and the key challenges and opportunities for CPOs looking to succeed in Spain. So whether you're already active in Spain or thinking about entering the market, this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. Let's get to it. All right, let's get started with the first guest on this special episode about the Spanish EV charging market with Didac from Ingeteam. Welcome, Didac.
Thank you, Christoph. I'm really happy to join you today in the ChargePoint podcast.
Lovely.
I've been an enthusiast listener to the podcast since almost 1 year ago. I think you started almost 2 years ago, right?
That's right. So thank you very much for being an early adopter. Thanks for your support. So it was about time to make also a deep dive on a very exciting and a rising market, the Spanish EV charging market. So before we start into the topic, can you give us an introduction about your background and your origins story that led you to the position where you are today?
Okay, so at the current moment, I'm the e-mobility business development manager for Ingeteam EV charging for Europe. My story with e-mobility started like 10 years ago, back in China, where I started to work in a company who had a production center there for inductive components. And they realized that apart from a production site, China was becoming more and more big market, especially for this new trend that was there at the moment, the EV automotive industry. I started working in sales there. Then I've moved back to Spain, working in low voltage switching, mainly to photovoltaics applications and panel building. But I started also to develop some customers in EV charging industry. And then I moved back where I am at the moment, in Ingeteam, where I have more of a global vision of a full solution. And we try to provide the best that we can to this new market that's pushing so hard.
Yeah. Can you say a few words about Ingeteam, about the story, the size of the company you're offering?
Yeah, definitely. So Ingeteam is a big group. In total, we employ around 3,600 people. The group is located in 15 countries, and we have over 85 years of experience in providing solutions to electrify society. The main, specialization of Ingeteam is the manufacturing of rotating electrical machines, power electronics, as well as automation and control electronics. And with these technologies in mind, The group addresses different markets as wind power generation, photovoltaics, hydropower generation, or in this case, the e-mobility segment. That's the one I represent.
Great, yeah. And in short, the range of chargers that you're offering, it goes from which power to which power?
So we start from 7.4 kilowatts in the AC and up to 420 kilowatts nowadays.
Vale, great. Interesting to see, players, Spanish companies. I have a background at the Wallbox for some time, for some of the listeners who might know, so it's cool to talk to another Spanish player, and there's a vibrant community and of manufacturers. It's quite interesting. Let's dive into the topic. We want to give an insight. Thank you for joining here to share a bit your insight, your knowledge about the Spanish market, which is probably interesting also CPOs which might not be there yet. So it's been lately moving faster in the mobility space. So what's your view on how the market has evolved let's just take like the last 2 years, right? How has it changed?
Well, the last 2 years, it's been, we had a strong growth, but not without challenges, let's say.
Of course.
We had, let's say, until 2023, exponential growth, almost on a year basis. The number of EVs sold in the country and infrastructure installed here in Spain was growing at a very big rate. However, due to supply chain issues affecting mainly the vehicle availability, also delays in the implementation of some of the governmental subsidies that discouraged some potential EV buyers in some regions, affected a lot. Couple of years ago, the number of EV sales. And in 2024, regarding the EV charging industry, we had also a big push with over 40,000 new chargers installed, Mm-hmm. However, approximately 1/3 of those chargers were not operative at the moment. Due to long bureaucracy procedures that were mandatory at the moment, also lack of power available and grid connection delays, and also the lack of final approval from the local authorities. So this caused an overall frustration and low charger utilization rates, which impacted in a relevant way the planning and construction of any new infrastructure of EV chargers, basically. So that was until last year. But in 2025, it's true that we are seeing, especially in these late months, a big acceleration and recovery. It seems that at the moment we have almost 50,000 chargers operative in the country. And in addition, we observe that the electrification of heavy vehicles in Spain is gaining a lot of traction with the increase of new vehicles registrations. So in conclusion, my feeling is that Spain is in the right track, but we had our setbacks.
Interesting. Of course, there's no perfect scenario, but it's still an upward trend. So you mentioned some of the challenges. Can you again maybe repeat a bit about those challenges that the CPOs are facing today as they deploy and operate charging infrastructure?
Yeah, in my opinion, first of all, the grid saturation. Of course, this threatens the long-term infrastructure growth. At the moment, I think over 60 billion euros are stalled due to grid limitations. Also, the activation of new charging points can take up to more than 9 months due to bureaucratic delays. That's also a big challenge that CPOs are facing. Also, there's some inconsistency on regional policies and on incentives, basically, that creates a lot of uncertainty for the investors. And other challenges that CPOs are facing at the moment is that there's a need to increase the interoperability between the different operators. Mm-hmm. At the moment, this, let's say, it's not a reality yet in most cases. there's a lack of regulations to prevent non-users to block charging parking slots. We see that quite often in Spain. And also the vandalism and fraud is also having a relevant impact on the current EV infrastructure installed.
I understand, yeah. So talking about the specific issue for grid capacity, so how is grid capacity issue impacting charging rollout, especially for high power installations in Spain?
This is one of the biggest obstacles right now, the grid capacity. For example, as of 2025, over 13,000 public EV chargers are installed, but not yet operational. This is mainly because the grid cannot support these new connections fastly enough. The saturation is slowing down the rollout of EV charging infrastructure, especially in rural areas or in the highways where the grid capacity is the weakest. For example, with these pilot projects for megawatt charging stations planned with power outputs over 1 megawatt, at the moment most of those planned sites they can only receive 250 kilowatts. So to address this, the Spanish government, who acknowledges that maybe the bureaucracy is preventing the EV charging infrastructure to grow at the deserved path, has passed a royal decree law which sets strict deadlines for connecting new chargers. So they guarantee as fast as 5 days for low voltage units and up to 80 days for larger installations. And in case they cannot provide as fast as with those periods, then the CPOs are good to go, pending on this approval to say so.
Okay.
This is a first step, but the long-term solution requires a massive grid investment, both in transmission capacity and in the smart grid systems. So in short term, maybe integrating battery storage systems at charging sites could help to mitigate these local power limitations.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's clear when you think about it, you're saying that highway spots which have to be those super highway fast charging stations, both for passenger car, but also in the near future, as you said, trucks. Yeah, if the grid is weak, as you said, the weakest there, then it's really a challenge, but because we need strong grid, and batteries hopefully can compensate that in the short term. I mean, everybody heard about the whole the breakdown or the grid whatever outage that was in Spain in the spring, right? So that clearly proves that the Spanish grid has some serious upgrades to make to be resilient, right?
Yeah, definitely. That was a good example on that we need to upgrade the current grid and also think on short and medium term solutions to sustain the growth on the EV infrastructure that we're planning to build, and also to be stable enough in case these sort of things happen again.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and let's just a last word on solar energy, which has grown massively in Spain. I haven't checked the figures, but I think I'm not mistaken, right? The deployment has been quite massive. So, how is solar energy integrated with EV charging stations in Spain? Is it only on the residential side that is working, or is it also some on the public charging? Try to connect with solar parks or with big solar installations? What do you see?
We see it in both areas, in domestic and in public infrastructure. In public infrastructure, Spain is experimenting with multiple solar integrated strategies, from fully off-grid stations or even hybrid systems, to smart solar battery-enabled charging points and carports. While this is still emerging, and these solutions, I think that they could be pivotal on scaling EV infrastructure sustainably and reducing the pressure on the grid. In the same way, what is quite often what's quite common to see is in charging hubs, you see more and more often solar canopies that they provide a dual use of serving as parking areas and also enabling from clean energy generation for the EV chargers that are placed below them.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's something I had the chance to be in a startup in the mid of the tens in south of France, which was doing solar canopies for EV charging solution. I mean, we know the energy equation doesn't really add up, but it helps to, of course, power the site, and it shows the connection. But have you seen any projects where, like I've seen in California, because I'm thinking a lot like Spain, like California is drenched with sun, right? So you could really drive on sunshine across Spain. Are there projects where you've seen, like in I think it was in the Nevada, was a Tesla that made this off-grid island site where it's co-located with a huge solar park behind, right? So do you see this co-location of solar parks with charging station maybe somewhere on the countryside in remote places? Before we continue with the show, I have to tell you about something important. Co-located batteries are suddenly everywhere in the CPO conversation, but most operators still struggle with the first big hurdle, how to actually connect and control them. This is exactly what recently unpacked in our masterclass. How to solve the connect challenge, how to unlock real value stacking with peak shaving arbitrage, flexibility revenues, DNO curtailment, with concrete example from Recharge, Q8 and other CPOs already doing it. So sign up for the on-demand masterclass. You really don't want to miss this one. And now, back to the show.
We still don't have any, as far as I know, any operative fully off-grid charging hub, but definitely with all the solar farms that we have here in Spain, and also the countries are referent in terms of solar photovoltaics production of energy. I don't think that's not possible in the coming years to have a fully off-grid charging hubs operational. At the moment, as far as I know, there is not yet.
Yeah, but do you think it's because of, do we agree it's not because of the technology? The technology is there to make it happen. So is it more bureaucracy, red tape, regulations that would prevent it?
Yeah, I think it's likely, given that the companies that are building infrastructure at the moment, they, let's say, are not having an easy time with all the challenges that they have to face. Adding, photovoltaics being fully off-grid at the moment, since this is seen some sort of an experimental project, and in most cases, they maybe don't see yet the business case to put the focus on that.
Maybe. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's not an easy task, but I just could see it for myself when it can be done in the Nevada desert. I could definitely see it on the plateaus of Spain. Yeah? So just coming back a bit to Ingeteam's business. So are there any recent innovations or deployment that you guys are proud of that you deployed in Spain in particular?
At the moment, we are really proud of our last all-in-one charger, the Rapid 420. Which is among the chargers with the highest power density in the world. Of course, all the developments that we have had have left us with something special and have participated in building the team and knowledge that we have today. And well, apart from the product innovations itself, I think what makes us proud is the path that we have traveled, especially in Spain. We started supplying charging stations in 2012. So we were involved since the beginnings in e-mobility, and we're really proud on the role that Ingeteam has had since those early days. We acted as a technological partner and for the companies that were brave enough to start in this new sector, and we're happy to accompany them.
Okay. And are there particular stations or hubs you can mention where one can see the supercharger you're mentioning, right? Do you have some sites that you can mention here?
Yeah, there is one site nearby Bilbao area. I don't remember exactly the name of the town, that was developed in 2018 with a 400 kilowatts charging station, product that is not available at the moment. But when we launched that project, Ingeteam was supplying the charger with the highest power output in the world. So that was definitely a milestone in the company, and this charging hub is still operative. So
okay, great. I will. You can have the link with me afterwards, so we can put it in the show notes for those who want to look it up, right? So what are the biggest opportunities you see in the next 2-3 years for CPOs operating in Spain?
Well, I think that there are going to be many opportunities for fast and ultra-fast charging along the major highways. Spain is aligned with the European regulations that require high-power charging stations of 100 kilowatts or more every 60 kilometers along those major highways. So this will definitely open the door for strategic placements in high-traffic corridors. Those places, they should have higher utilization rates and a quicker return on investment for the CPOs. Also, we are seeing that fleet and workplace charging is electrifying quite a lot. Commercial fleets, delivery vans, even public transport operators are electrifying really quickly, and CPOs might have there an opportunity to build more depots for charging with charging solutions for that typology of operations. And also, as you were asking before, we see that with all the works that have been done in the photovoltaics area, there is room to get some synergies, integrating photovoltaics and battery storage systems, and looking for maybe off-grid solutions that could help in the meantime that the grid is still quite saturated.
Okay, interesting perspective. Yeah, thank you. And how do you see the role of software, load management, battery integration, flexibility markets evolving in this ecosystem in Spain?
In my opinion, software will be the key of scalability and efficiency for those purposes. It will be the main enabler for features such as the dynamic load management to improve the efficiency of use of the energy. Also in areas where there's grid constraint, for managing the integration of battery storage systems and deciding when to charge or discharge based on the pricing signals and the energy availability. So software is what connects EV infrastructure to the flexibility of the markets. So that would allow CPOs and fleet operators to participate in a demand response frequency regulation, or even the vehicle to grid possibilities that are open thanks to software.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, V2G is also, of course, coming to Spain in the near future. So maybe to round off, so with your knowledge and your perspective, so if you had the one piece of advice for a new CPO entering the Spanish market, what would it be?
Well, first of all, is to look for the right partner, not only when considering in which type of equipment has the best performance or the best conditions, but also looking in the long-term perspective, engaging with let's say partners that can commit with them to ensure that the operational costs are going to be always on the good side. Also, to check well the regulatory frameworks on the country, and try to get use of the particularities of the country, as for example the photovoltaics that we were mentioning before. Definitely be a differential factor for a CPO pretending to come into Spain and to develop here. So I think that could be a good possibility for them.
All right. Thank you on those words. Thank you, Didac, for taking the time to answer a few questions and open up for our understanding of the Spanish EV charging market, and wishing you a a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Christoph. Have a good day.
And that brings us to the end of our Spanish EV charging market deep dive with Didac from Ingeteam. A huge thanks to him for sharing such honest, clear, and hopeful insights about where the Spanish EV charging market stands today and where it's heading. So what are the key takeaways from today's conversation? Well, first, momentum is real. After years of slow build-out, Spain is starting to accelerate. With nearly 50,000 chargers now installed and growing, we're finally seeing progress that matches the market's potential. Second, challenges remain, especially when it comes to grid connections, permitting delays, and bureaucratic bottlenecks. These are still holding back charger activation, with a significant number of units installed but not yet operational. Third, we heard how regional inconsistency is a major frustration for CPOs and investors. Policy fragmentation and unclear rules create uncertainty that slows down investment. But there's also plenty to be excited about. Spain's charging ecosystem is maturing, heavy-duty vehicle electrification is ramping up, and manufacturers like Ingeteam are doubling down on delivering complete flexible charging solutions across power ranges. And perhaps most importantly, Didac reminded us that this is a market to watch, not just because of its sunshine and road trip potential, but because once the regulatory wheels start turning faster, Spain could become one of Europe's fastest growing EV charging markets. If you're a CPO looking at Spain, now might be the time to sharpen your local knowledge, find the right partners, and position yourself for the coming surge. Thanks as always for listening to the ChargePoint podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your team, or forward it to someone in your network who's working in e-mobility. We've got more exciting conversations coming up, and I can't wait to share them with you. Until next time, keep charging forward. Bye.